Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the official podcast of GeoWoodstock 18 in the Great Pacific Northwest. Each week, we're going to talk about caches and caches from here and all around the globe. So while you're suffering from a brain freeze, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Oh, brain freeze. Okay. That means it's time to bring in our brain freeze baboon. Some say he treats COs the same way a lion tamer treats lions. And others say he spent 3 months in an outpatient earth cache rehab facility. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Hello, my friends. So good to see everybody. So good to see everybody online already, chatting away in the chat group. You guys are all awesome. And so good to see our guest, Mr. Rockchalk, one of my favorite hiking partners. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. Jim, Chris?
Oh, very well. Thank you.
Fantastico. And speaking of brain freezes, if people aren't following pop culture, it's July 11th. It's 7-Eleven Day. Oh, there we go. Nicely done, my friend.
Yeah, I knew about it this morning. I was out and about. I completely forgot. My son came home with this, so I stole it from him. So here you go. You know, it's a special 7.11 ounce cup.
Ooh,
you can't get just any size cup. You have to.
I didn't realize they did that because ours are in milliliters, so I had no idea that was a thing.
It's 7.11 milliliters in Canada.
That's the first one I've ever seen.
Say what?
That's the first. I've never gone on 7-Eleven.
Oh,
that's the first one I've ever seen.
You're not a fan of the Slurpees?
No.
Fair enough.
It's on that list of don't care.
Big list, man.
Sorry.
Are you a Slurpee or an Icy fan? And apparently there's a difference, but I don't know what it is.
That's also on the list of don't care.
Icy Bear. All right. Although I got to say, Icy Bear totally reminds me of the trip the three of us did with Mrs. Land Monkey down to the original stash, where we found the rolled up cutout of Icy Bear.
That was a ton of fun and not on the list of don't care.
There you go. Awesome. Well, tonight we are going to talk about Mystery at the Museum, which everybody's talking about today because it launched, it went live. And I'm sure a number of us are fumbling our way through it. So we've brought in the reporter from the field, Rockchalk, to give us some insight and help us make our way gracefully through the Mystery at the Museum. And then we're going to segue and talk a little bit about geocaching etiquette, because you've written some pretty cool blog posts that maybe not everybody's seen yet that I think everybody should. So we're looking forward to talking to you about that. All right. Big thumbs up. All right. He's ready. I have to point out that since Mystery, I heard just before the show, since Mystery at the Museum launched, Rockchalk, you might be a little bit tired.
Yeah, the intended effect took place with me unexpectedly. I thought to myself that I would just kind of go caching over the next month and, would just kind of find clues randomly as I went caching, because that's usually how I handle promotions. I don't really normally get into them all that much personally, but as I was sitting at the office today, and I thought, well, I should at least try to get that first one, which is the detective, and use the filters just so I can know how to do it. Thought that would be important. I mean, I helped out with testing, but
thanks for doing that tonight before the show. I appreciate that.
Right. So anyway, I found a couple possibilities, and they were all on I bike to and from work, and the only possibilities though were on the longer bike ride home. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go ahead and do that, And so I got to one, and I found that first one, the detective, and logged it, and then it opens up the next couple, and you got to do the fingerprint, the shadow, and the footprint. And I was then doing the filters and was like, okay, there's a few more over there. Oh, that's just a little bit off my route. It's not that far. I could maybe do that one. And before I knew it, I had biked way too far, and I'm feeling the effects now. But yeah, I'm going to have a word with the marketing people tomorrow morning, because I it zapped me. But it did what they wanted it to do. I didn't really think that like I said, I didn't think I'd be all that into it, but I kind of found myself like, oh, okay, I did that one. Let's see if maybe I can do a few more. So I've gotten a little bit hooked on it.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, and we're going to get into more of that and help other people understand how to get more hooked into it and at least be able to maximize their enjoyment of that experience. But before we do that, we want to make a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. And a special thanks to Landsharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. And folks, if you want to know more about supporting this podcast, click that Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website.
That's right. Go click that. While you're there, you might see something we enjoy called a glow. That's a geocaching log of the week. And whether you read it, whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better. We need your glows. You know what? Send an email or a field recording. That's a recording you do out on the field in your smartphone. And send it to feedback@cachingNW.com. You can call into 253-693-TFTC or use the voicemail tool right there on the website. You see all these options we've given you? And show us how you grow.
That's right. And you know who took one of those paths this week was Keepers of the Cash Flow. Sent in a glow for their 500th find. Congrats for that. I remember that milestone for me. That was a great one. And the glow this week reads, started today's adventure going to the nearby Emerald Lake, Alberta, Canada for some fishing. No, we did not find any fish, and the baby tried to go swimming in the lake by himself. Okay, he was wearing a life jacket. We did have him attached via a tether, keeping him from getting too far, and all is well with the baby. Let's get that out of the way. We found the cache at Emerald Lake, and I moved over to this 2 years lonely location. That's GC6G
It's for the World Wide Web.
Yeah, or that's GC6 what? Golf whiskey. Everybody break out the whiskey.
Either way, that sounds pretty good.
Like a triple shot of whiskey right there.
Okay, found the trailhead mentioned vaguely in the description. Sass Cash remained in the car with the hedge ham, and Stash Cash went on his own. A lack of bug spray, I prepared for the impending feeding fest by covering myself in my hip waders, hoodie, and hat. Making my way through a small swamp, and I found a fairly decent hill making my way through, under, and around various fallen trees, which is very unpleasant in hip waders. I finally made my way to the top of the hill overlooking the lake. I looked to my GPS, found my bearings, followed my geosenses to where I felt the cache would be. Sure enough, I got to where I thought I should start looking, and the GPS bounced around for a minute before telling me that I was pretty much standing at ground zero. I checked for only a quick moment to find the Ziploc bag containing what remained of the logbook and pencil, after which I took some time and located what remained of its container. Funnily enough, previous logs mention only finding the lid, which I did not find. I've included the photo of what I discovered and will be marking this cache as needing to be archived. Also slipped on a log on my way out and folded myself in half backwards, which was interesting. Still a great hike and a great view. I'm glad I brought an extra geocache with me to refresh the game board as soon as the area becomes available.
Wow. I would suggest not folding yourself in half backwards if possible.
I try to make a habit of not doing that, yeah.
Because, wow.
There's one thing that we really do well on this show, and it's give excellent advice. And I think that really falls under the category of excellent advice. Do not fold yourself in half backwards.
Absolutely.
And, we give that after the fact, usually not before, but perhaps you're going out now and you're thinking, I wonder if I should fold myself in half backwards. No, I heard on the podcast I shouldn't.
That's right.
So we're here to help, folks.
Public service announcement from Caching the Northwest. You're welcome.
Right. Hey, we mentioned all those ways to get in contact with us just before this. Now, Keepers of the Cash Flow sent this in via email, and he has received his glow badge instructions to put right there, the 2019 glow badge to put on his profile. But you can send it in many different ways. Limax called in. He has a milestone as well. Let's go ahead and play that now.
Hello, gentlemen. This is Limax calling in with another milestone. I just found cache number 2424 today on a puzzle called Rebus, which allowed me to get the detective clue for the new museum promotion. Was it Mystery at the Museum? 2424 is a very interesting number because it is divisible by 101. 101 being the first palindromic prime that we've got. And there you go. Bye.
Never a stretch for those math facts.
I knew there would be a numeric story involved. Thanks, Limax.
Limax, we can always count on you to bring a completely unforeseen math fact into geocaching. That's awesome, man. Thank you.
How much fun is that? I mean, it makes you want to listen to say, what is he going to come up with this time?
Yeah. Well, and congrats on the milestone. And one of the other things I love about Limax's calls in for milestones is it's never like, oh, I hit 5,000 caches today. It's always like some really crazy number and there's a reason for it. It's fun.
It is.
All right.
Well, any news?
Not really. I mean, we have a Mystery at the Museum promotion, something I don't know much about it. I think we should just skip it and move on.
Well, you know, in PNW Geo Extravaganza news, one thing I would want to shout out is for those who aren't aware, there is a Facebook group that you can join where, and Rock Chalk, can you remember what the name of that group is? I think it's.
I could figure it out here pretty quickly.
All right, because I can't remember, and I didn't remember to put in the show notes. So while I'm talking, Rock Chalk's going to look it up.
2020 Pacific Northwest Geocaching Celebration Community Group.
Nice short name, easy to remember.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
But what I was going to do is just let people know that exists. And if you have questions about any of the 3 major events going on in August 2020, so that would be the 20th anniversary celebration in Seattle Center area. That would be Going Ape 11.
Yes.
So in 2020. And of course, GeoWoodstock. Well, I shouldn't say of course to me, GeoWoodstock up here in British Columbia. If you got questions, you got thoughts, you've got fun comments you want to make about any of those 3 events, that's definitely a place to go for that. So that Facebook group exists. I want to just encourage you to get in there and contribite to it.
Nice.
August is also Chris of the Northwest birthday, but we won't mention that.
Well, maybe that should be another event as well.
It should be. It'll probably be
the actual Giga event out of everything.
And GSM times 2 was nice enough to put the Facebook group name and link into the chat. Thank you, GSM times 2.
Thank you very much. What a guy.
Isn't he, though?
He is in so many ways. All right. And I'm not even being sarcastic. I totally legitimately mean that.
Thanks for pointing that out because sometimes we can't tell.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Anyways, we were saying before that we were going to introduce our guest, and we did right off the start. We introduced our guest because we were so excited to have Rock Chalk back on.
Always excited to have Rock Chalk here.
And he's a guest that really doesn't need an introduction.
But he gets them anyways.
Yeah, I know. He's good.
What a lucky guy. Let us know.
I am lucky. Yeah.
He's feeling real lucky tonight.
I'm feeling it. I can see it in your face.
All right. Well, hey, before we get into the meat of tonight's topics, there are some questions that arose on Facebook for you, Chris, Rock Chalk. And I wanted to read them out and get your responses to them because they're kind of fun. And the first one's from Selena Jeffries-Rotz. And she says, aside from trying to figure out what the latest Geo challenge is, I also want to know the meaning behind Rock Chalk's Geo name. She continues, I'm from Kansas, and that term is used here as sort of a college battle cry. Rock Chalk?
Yeah, she nailed it. We're both from Kansas, and Rock Chalk is part of what's called the Rock Chalk Chant at the University of Kansas, which is my alma mater, and so that's where it comes from. Our username originally was Running Jayhawks, my wife and I, and that just came from, I was a runner. I ran at the University of Kansas on the track and cross country teams back when I was much, much younger. And so we just kind of took that and made it Running Jayhawks. And then when I started working at Geocaching HQ, people would ask about our username when they would meet me in the visitor center at the office. And there was always just some confusion about it because it was plural. People wanted to know how many people were on the team and did those people also work at HQ. And so I finally decided I wanted something that was slightly more ambiguous. And so I was shocked to find that Rock Chalk was available. And so I went ahead and changed it. And most often people assume that I'm a rock climber, and which is fine. I do climb some rocks, so sure, I'll go along with that. But the Facebook comment was right on the nose. It is from the University of Kansas.
Excellent. All right. And in the same thread, there was another question that came from, and I'm going to apologize because I'm probably going to wreck her name, but Leela Murrill is how I interpret it. Feel free to email me and correct the pronunciation. And she said, I was wondering if he was a cacher or an actor. What about the female desk report at GeoCoin?
Oh my gosh. It's been funny to watch some of the social media comments. There was one the other that was also pointed out to me. It said, does anybody know what Chris Ronan is a reference to? Because we figured out GeoCoin, but we didn't know about Chris Ronan. What does that refer to? Which I thought was hilarious.
Sort of Japanese warrior kind of
right. Right. Is that some? Well, we had the Teague Ulmer Museum and GeoCoin and anyway, no, she is not an actor, and I'm not an actor. She is. GeoCoin is actually, Jennifer is her real name, and Jennifer is our director of legal and business affairs, or vice president of legal and business affairs. So, and her first job way back was she was a news reporter, as was I. That was my first job. We both are journalism majors, and so back well before I did what I do now, I was in television, and so was she. But then she went the much smarter route than I did, because she's much smarter than me. She became an attorney and got a law degree, and now that is her job at Geocaching HQ, and has been for, I think she's been here for 7 or 8 years. So when it came time to do this fun little video that they put together, they knew that both she and I had some experience in that field, and brought us in. So that's how that worked out. There was one other. There were two other things. So just kind of behind the scenes stuff. One was the GeoCoin thing. That was totally spur of the moment as we were shooting the video. It was just one of those things where she knew nobody knows who she is, because she doesn't really have a public facing job. So she was like, well, wouldn't it be funny if we came up with a different name? And so they said that and came up with GeoCoin, which I thought was great. And then they said, well, what about you? Do you want to do something else? And I said, well, I mean, enough people know me just by my name. It would be a little bit weird if I came up with a different name. But what I thought would have been the best one was Webcam, WEBBKAM. That would have been my name. But again, totally spur of the moment. And then the other, I think, kind of a funny behind the scenes thing was, if you remember, as I'm describing the bank heist, or the museum heist, I mentioned that the burglars were in there for 81 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I assumed that was a reference to the DT grid, right, being 81. It's not at all. It apparently was the marketing team, when they were putting this whole thing together, there was actually a real life burglary that took place, a big famous one back in the 60s or 70s, and They just saw that there was an 81-minute connection there.
Oh, for Pete's
And
sake.
they had it wasn't even in their minds that it had to do with the fizzy grid. As I was saying the whole thing, I just assumed it was a clever, we said Teague Ulmer, we said some other, I thought 81 what else could it be but the fizzy grid?
Yeah.
That's what we all thought.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It had nothing to do with the fizzy grid. So there's some more behind the scenes stuff for you. I didn't find that out till yesterday. I was
Oh, wow.
as I was preparing for this, I was talking to my fellow lackey who has kind of been the most involved with Mystery at the Museum, just kind of getting some answers to some questions from her. And she mentioned that about the 81 thing. She said what it was about. And I said, wait, that wasn't related to the fizzy grid? And she said, no, it has nothing to do with fizzy. So anyway, just some inside baseball for you guys.
That's hilarious.
Very
I think
fun.
every geocacher assumed it was the fizzy grid.
Of course, yeah. And so it's kind of a happy coincidence because I think that is, I mean, if it would have been any other number, it wouldn't have made sense really. So, but it was a total just random happy surprise that they used 81 in there.
I figured since you have done the fizzy grid so many times, that was your little addition there.
Yeah, I wish it was. I wish I was that clever, but no, I'm not. And so there's your answers about the stuff she asked about, but then also a few extras.
There you go. That's awesome. And I know, Chris, you've got some questions for Rock Chalk here, but before we get into that, I just wanted to grab a couple things out of the chat. You guys in the chat are awesome, as I always say, and you always prove it. UDAC says, in response to finding out the journalism background, says, no wonder they were both so good on the video. So there you go.
Thank you very much.
Little shout out from UDAC. And Mr. Hippo, geocacher from up here in Metro Vancouver, says, hey, Rock Chalk, thanks for coming all the way up here to grab our forgotten garden hide and replacing it up the tree.
Oh my God. Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah. The first comment, and that was nice to say that, as that was being recorded, GeoCoin went first and did her thing. And as she did it, I think twice, it was all she did. And after the second time I said to her, that first one, I could tell that you were kind of getting your feet back under you. But the second one, like, she was on news report, like news anchor talk. There's just a cadence that goes with that. And she said, yeah, it's weird. It's like muscle memory. You just kind of, and yeah, it was fun for both of us to do that. And hopefully people had fun with it.
Nice. Also, TWH Writer says, I Googled 81 minutes to see if it was significant. I didn't know anything about fizzy grids.
Well, that was something that was a lot of fun, was to watch how people were trying to dissect the whole thing and every word of it, because, sometimes we do have little Easter eggs in stuff that we do. But in this case, there was not quite as much to it as people thought there might have been. So, but it was still fun watching folks in various forums and social media, trying to figure out what might have been the hidden meaning behind the words.
Nice. And it was just a happy coincidence. Well, as you know, and you've already been sucked into the whirlwind of mystery at the museum.
Yeah.
Is the primary field reporter, and I have to say I'm slightly disappointed you're not wearing a suit tonight.
I thought about that just about 5 minutes ago, and
that's okay.
It would have been fitting.
Can you give us some insight into what's transpired and what geocachers can do to help? You can start by giving us some backstory on what this mystery is all about.
Yeah. So if people didn't see the breaking news bulletins, the gist of it is that authorities need your help solving this huge jewel heist, the biggest in history as it stood. So starting today through August 11th, you start by getting briefed on the case and then find clues to track down the stolen jewels. And once you've found them, return them to the vault using the hidden code, because of course it couldn't just be find the stuff. The thieves changed the code too, so there's always that throwing in that extra little bit. So once you found the jewels, return them to the vault using the hidden code that the thieves came up with, and you will have solved the mystery at the museum. So you have until August 11th to go out and find caches and do all of that stuff.
All right. So what should geocachers do next to help solve the mystery?
Yeah, so what you need to do is find these clues, and these are digital artifacts that are hidden in geocaches. They help you solve the mystery at the museum. So you have to search for caches that contain the clues that you're looking for, and then you will collect the clue that's in that cache when you log the cache. So the way to go about it is the way to go out and find the clues that you need is to use filters, either using the search function on the website or within the geocaching app. Use those filters to seek out caches that contain the clues that you need, and then go out and find those caches and log them. And as you log them as found, you will collect the clue that's in that cache. You'll start off with the detective clue. That's the first one that you have to find. And once you've found that, it will open up 3 more clues that you need to collect. And then once you found those, as I found today, again, I'm playing this like everybody else, that will open up a few more. And you collect all the clues to learn how to access the vault. And the Mystery at the Museum page, either on the website or on your app, it's there clearly marked on the app, so you can kind of keep track of your progress as you're working your way through all of these clues. So we were talking before we started recording here, and I was looking at my own app and trying to remember. I found the detective, and then I found, I think, a fingerprint and a
shadow.
What was the other thing I said? No, I haven't found a shadow. I found a fingerprint and a
footprint.
Thank you. So I still need 1 more of each of those, and then I need 2 shadows. So I've already been looking at what kind of a bike ride I can do into work tomorrow to try to make that happen. But that's kind of an overview of the kind of stuff that you have to do.
So can you just tell Brian Roth tomorrow morning you need a nap when you get into work?
I think, Brian might be willing to let me go into a dark room and take it easy for a while. I've been taking one for the team.
There you go. I had to stay up late for the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Brian's a sympathetic guy. I think he would look out for me.
There you go. Good to know. So great insight and some really helpful background. A number of us have started playing. There's probably a lot of people who haven't had a chance to yet because it's Thursday. So a few questions. We had a few things come up out of the chat, which we'll get to in just a moment. But by when do you need to complete this? By when does the mystery need to be solved in order to earn your souvenirs?
So you can collect clues up until August 11th, and there will be a 48-hour grace period there at the end to submit your drafts and your logs. So you need to make sure that you log your finds and your attended logs by August 14th at noon UTC in order to earn your souvenirs. So personally, I'm going to try to get it done by August 11th just to be safe. But again, there will be that bit of a grace period to, if you have any straggling drafts and logs that you need to get in.
That happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a friend who's at least a month behind in logging their caches. So
yeah, I'm still way behind from this road trip that we did over the Independence Day week last week. So I'm sympathetic to that myself.
I want to hear more about that road trip in the after show if you're willing to.
It was just a 4-day weekend, but you had a whole week.
Yeah, I went. Yeah, I won't go into all of it right now,
Nice.
but yeah, I went to the Tri-Cities Mega and then used that as a launching point to go into Idaho and spent the week kind of driving around that beautiful state. So I've got a lot of logs to submit.
Awesome. So a couple of comments from the chat that I'll throw out here. And Mr. Ronan, if you want to comment on any of them, feel free. Start Casher says he drove 50 miles for the closest detective clue this evening, did the search, and going tomorrow evening to get the 3x2 evidence caches by the upcoming, near the upcoming Midwest Geobash. Figures it'll be about an 80-mile round trip.
Yeah, it's a problem if you've got your local area cached out. You're going to have to travel to get some of these. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've run into myself around just my house. I've cleared out most of that area. For whatever reason, I haven't done as much caching near work, so there's some there. But yeah, I can understand how folks would have to expand the radius a little bit in some cases to be able to track down the clues.
Yeah, I've got a similar challenge out here. I have a very limited number of caches that I can find, and one of them we tried to grab on the way home from work and DNF'd it. So I was like, rats. So
well, you drive to the U.S. like every other week, so I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, I figure within a couple of weeks we should be okay. But yeah, actually, I was really disappointed because we got the detective clue, and I thought, all right, so now there's a bunch that I can find, and we've got a paddle cache adventure coming up on Saturday. I thought, okay, one of those caches must light up for this next group. None of them did. I thought, are you kidding me? So we'll have to work it for a little bit. But back to Start Cacher, he continues. He says, then, so the story continues, I will just cache as usual for the next few weeks, including the Midwest Geobash Mega and associated nearby caches, and then target anything specific needed if there's anything left. So there you go. And I think there's probably a lot of us who are going to follow a similar methodology, like get started. And if we've already got summer plans to go tackle a big road trip or whatever, we'll tackle that. And when it's done, before our grace period runs out, we'll take a look and see, all right, what do we got left? What do we need to do to get this final souvenir? So yeah.
Yeah, like I said before, I had every intention of just kind of not paying much attention and just do my normal caching, and whatever happens, happens. But I just kind of got sucked in today. I don't know. Didn't think it could happen to me, but it did.
You're not immune.
I'm not immune. I'm not. That's true.
Well, is there any other perhaps breaking news that might be helpful to geocachers? Where can they find out more? And from the chat, Geocaching with GSM times 2 says, will there be a follow-up news report?
I can tell you I haven't been involved in any follow-up news reports yet, so
okay.
I can't say for sure whether one might happen in the future, but I have not been called to the camera yet. mysteryatthemuseum.com, that's the best place to find information. It's kind of a place with just links to the various FAQs and that sort of stuff. So mysteryatthemuseum.com. The only other thing that I would mention is that if you're using the geocaching app to hunt for clues, make sure you have the latest version of the app. We've had a few folks who reported problems, and it turns out they were using an older version of the app. So just make sure that you're on the most up-to-date version. And that's really the main thing that I would suggest to people at this point, and have fun with it. It should be, well, it's been fun for me so far, and hopefully other people have a good time with it too.
Oh, I think we always do. Every summer is some new promotion. They're always fantastic. More comments from the chat. A question: did every geocache in play get one clue?
I'm not totally sure about that. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think that every cache has a clue, but that's something that I would have to check into and
sure,
and ask about that. Yeah, that's
okay.
good. That's a good question.
I did a quick search this afternoon, and I was surprised to see some disabled caches have clues in them.
Yeah, that was something that we were talking about a little bit today too, and I think there might be an update coming up that would that they would try to address that in some way, because it also caught my eye and a few of us, the rest of us too. So it's one of those things where caches that are disabled at the start of the promotion and then are enabled during the promotion, that clue will, it is available to people.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it is kind of, just speaking for myself as a player, it was a little bit like, oh my gosh, look at all this gray stuff that's there, but I can't go get the clue in it. So yeah, it was something that we were discussing a little bit today.
But I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I thought it was interesting. Yeah, it's disabled, so that means it's still in play. It's just not in the best shape, and it could be revived and still be useful for this promotion. So
right, yeah.
Cache owners get out and do some maintenance, right?
Exactly.
Also from GSM times 2, on a related note, will all new geocaches have detective clues throughout their promotion? Is that kind of going along the same lines?
If a cache gets published after today,
that's how I interpret the question. Yeah,
right.
If it's a newly published cache.
Right. Yeah. Any new caches published between now and August 11th will all get the detective clue.
Oh, nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right. Which is just the first clue.
Right.
You'll need 21 more after that.
If Chris's math is right, and it probably is.
Just to get you started.
Chris, do you want to read Dora Moore's?
Will there be what happens when you travel? Will there be clues far away that hold clues, or are they based to your home location? I can actually answer that one because I'm looking to do a trip tomorrow, and there are clues everywhere. It seems like all active geocaches have a clue of some sort. Like I said, there's going to be 22 available clues. So maybe not all the caches in an area are going to have everything you need, but you can do a search right now on the website or the app and, say I'm looking for a clue. If you leave everything unchecked, it's going to pull up all the caches that have a clue associated with it. If you're not ready for that step, let's say like me, I haven't done the detective one yet, so I don't know any of the others that are available. And it says, this clue is hidden. You'll have to do a little more detective work in order to discover what it is. So I can tell it has a detective clue. I just can't tell what it is, or it has a clue. I just can't tell what it's about. So yes, I think almost all geocaches have a clue, all active geocaches, a clue of some sort.
Rock Chalk, any thoughts on that?
I think Chris covered it pretty well. Yeah.
Very cool. IHAM brought up a point. It's some constructive feedback for HQ that I noticed myself this morning. Events that have already transpired had clues, and that was kind of useless. So,
well, it gives you a chance to go log that if you were.
So, just some feedback to take back to the team when they're putting their filters on.
If you forgot to log that attended log, get on it.
They're active events. Like there's one that was a month ago. I looked at it and go, wait, are they doing this one again?
Yeah.
It was a month ago. It has the detective clue on it. And I'm like, oh, wait, it's old. But, according to the database, it's still an active event cache.
Right. Oh. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a totally good point. And there's a couple little quirky things in there like that.
Well, this is the thing. It's such a complex on the back end, everything, such a complex set of rules and everything. I'm sure having a bit of an IT myself, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's to err is human, but to screw things up, you need a computer.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to give a shout out to the team that worked on this, because it is a more involved setup than we've had for previous promotions, and has been a lot of work for those folks. And I think for the most part, it's been pretty smooth, but there have definitely been a couple little bumps that there always are going to be. And but for the most part, I'm personally, and again, I'm obviously biased, but I'm impressed with what they came up with, because as I said before, I expected to just kind of think, oh, whatever. But as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is a neat little ecosystem that they've created. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm trying to focus on just kind of having fun with that.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing we all need to, as geocachers, players of the game, keep in mind is that this go round was really a stretch from the last set. All the previous really summer promotions. I think you call them promotions, right? Is that the correct term?
We go back. I was asking the marketing people about that. Is it a promotion? Is it a challenge? Is it a souvenir? Yeah. So they said we kind of bounce back and forth, but yeah, they've been using leaderboard pretty consistently. And so I personally thought it was kind of refreshing that we did something a little bit different with this. And it's just kind of neat functionality, I think.
Right. And to that point, I see we've got another comment from the chat that says, kudos to the team for coming up with a new idea. I like the concept, even if it will be hard for those of us who found everything around our home, which is, Chris, your perspective. I've had the same challenge. I've seen a lot of people on social media vetching a little bit about, I've got to do this. But you know what?
You've got a month.
You got a month and get out there, go geocaching, have fun. Cache safe, cache often.
and I was thinking about that too myself today, and that happens really with every promotion to some degree. That if you found everything, and it happens with when we do souvenirs for International Earth Cache Day. You'll have people say, "Well, I found all the Earth caches." I'm like, "Well, what do you want us to do? Give you retroactive?"
Well, what did you go and do that for? Do like Land Monkey, leave all the Earth caches by your house so you can have them for the internet.
There you go. Right.
Be like Wits End and don't find any of them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I found all the highly favorited caches around my, house. What am I supposed to do? Yeah, well, these things happen.
Hashtag geocache road trip. That's all I can say, man. Which was to the question that Dora Moore had before, right? Which was, if I go traveling, can I still collect these? And you can. So bonus on that. Dora Moore had one other question that I want to get to before we start switching topics here. So, Mr. Ronan, are the clues the same for all players? Now, she suggested that Marty the Caveman, her co-cacher, may have had a slightly different list than hers. Do you know the answer to
that? Your friends will see the same clues that you do.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the same clue.
Universal.
It's the same clue for everyone. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that answers that question.
Each cache has one clue type, and everybody will see the same clue type for that cache.
Nice. Correct.
Mr. of the Northwest, did you want to read IHAM's comment before you get into the next question?
He says, if the past event hiccup is the worst that happens, Geocaching HQ is golden.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. I will pass that on to the folks that have been working on this.
I mean, I look at it and say, okay, so they've got some previous events that have already happened. You're dealing with 3 million plus records in a database. If we're looking at 100 or 200, that's easily within the margin of error and it's ignorable. So there you go. That's all I have.
All right. So, Mr. of the Northwest, why don't you lead us into our big segue here?
Okay. So, Mystery at the Museum. We feel like this is going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, some of us have already been sucked into the vortex, but there's also been some other blog post at geocaching.com about geocaching etiquette. Let's talk about etiquette 201 first, finding and logging. The first part was about logging your find online. What are the key messages HQ wants to communicate about logging finds?
Well, the impetus for these posts was that we often are asked to mediate various gameplay issues. People will write in with logging disputes or things of that nature, and also the reviewer community, they're often asked about it too, and we often will give one-off answers and advice here or advice there, but we realized that we really didn't have a place where we had tried to address a number of the things that we hear about the most often. And so what we did was, just try to come up with a list of those most commonly asked questions and the topics that the reviewers hear about most often, and that we get emails from the community about most often. And hopefully the end in mind being that we have a place to direct people when some of these most commonly asked things come around. It's interesting for us because we often find that if something isn't spelled out in the guidelines in a very specific way, people will try to dissect the words and like, for instance, up until fairly recently, it wasn't specified in the guidelines that you had to visit the posted that you were supposed to visit the posted coordinates in order to claim a find on a cache or on a lab or what have you. And that was just because I think we assumed, or whoever first wrote the guidelines and their various evolutions just assumed that people knew that, where it's a location-based game.
Yeah.
You're
Anybody with a brain would do that.
You would think, well, that's a little harsh, but yeah,
I feel like you're trying to get at something, Wit's End. But
yeah. So it
just seems obvious to me.
yeah,
and I think it seems obvious to most people, and yet people would say, well, it's not written down there, so I don't know. I just assumed that we could do it this other way, and we thought, okay, whatever. Let's put this down in writing and try to address some of these things that some more obvious than others.
Reminds me of a Brady Bunch episode about the exact words.
Yeah, but it's some people are just able to look at that and say, okay, well, they didn't say that I couldn't do this, or this, so I guess I can. And in our mind, it was always, well, no, we just kind of, and most people know. And I think most of the folks that are watching tonight probably just know what the spirit of the game is and what kind of the right thing to do is in most cases.
Yeah.
But what we found was we had to make it super, super clear for a couple of, again, some of those, we could have written a 20-page blog post. I mean, we could have gone on and on and on about a whole lot of other stuff because the original list was a lot longer, and we just tried to pare it down to the really top of the list stuff. So maybe there'll be a chapter 2 some point, chapter 3 somewhere down the road. But yeah, so that was kind of what we had in mind when we were putting this project together.
I have to ask before I get into my next question. Rock Chalk, did you ever feel like as you were writing this, you were writing contents of this cup may be hot on the other side of the McDonald's coffee cup?
A little bit. I mean, we didn't want it to seem like, oh, there goes HQ again, telling everybody what to do or trying to be heavy-handed. Or it wasn't that at all. We weren't trying to be prescriptive or to try to, be the meanies that are making it not fun for anybody. It was truly, hey, we're asked about this stuff a lot. We get a lot of emails. Our community engagement team mediates a lot of disputes between people, and they're the ones that are more often than not sending responses that are akin to this cup is hot. And so, we were just trying to do it in a way that was instructive for the people that maybe there really are some people out there that just don't know, but for the people that have been kind of just trying to skirt the general spirit of things, just trying to make it really clear that, hey, here are the general best practices, the expectations that most of the community has. This is what you should be trying to do, rather than trying to find various ways around those expectations.
Fair enough. And I think that segues us nicely into the next question we had for you, Chris, which is the article also mentions the concept of preserving the geocaching experience for others. And could you dive a little bit into what is meant by that?
Well, what it's meant is that there are some folks, and it's a small percentage of the community, but they're still out there that for whatever reason, part of their enjoyment of the game is creating spoiler groups and sharing puzzle answers and sharing virtual answers and earth cache answers and things like that. And we get a lot of complaints about that, and people in the community ask us to do something, please do something about this. And one thing that we tried to make as clear as we could in the blog post was that there's some stuff we can't do anything about. If somebody has set up a spoiler group, a private Facebook group somewhere, there's something of a limit as to what we can do. But just because we can't shut it down ourselves doesn't mean that we don't want to make it clear that it's wrong. It's not something that the general community expects to be an okay thing. And, if we find out that you're involved in making something like that possible, what we can do is look at your geocaching account and decide if there needs to be some action to that. So
that sounded dramatic. If people maybe missed that subtlety there.
Well, what we said in the blog was that don't share answers to puzzles or labs or whatever, and because if you're doing that without the owner's permission, not only are you ruining their efforts, but you risk losing your access to geocaching.com. So again, we might not be able to affect just using Facebook as an example, what they do on their platform or what some other entity does on their platform. There's a limit to our reach in that respect, but there isn't as much of a limit as, when it comes to our own website. So if we have definitive proof that, LandMonkey, to use an example, has an Earth Cache spoiler group somewhere and he's sharing all these answers, and we can prove that, then okay, we'll give you a chance to stop. But if you decide you think it's fun and you're going to keep doing it, then it's probably going to affect your geocaching.com account. So we just wanted to put that out there because it has happened to people, and there have been some folks whose accounts have been affected, and we just wanted to make sure that that's public and people are aware of it, so they don't think that it's just, oh, there's nothing they can do about this. They're just going to let it keep going. Well, again, there might be a limit, but there isn't necessarily nothing that we can do. So
and for the record, I want to point out that I do not have an Earth Cache Facebook.
Well, not that we know of yet.
It's hidden.
Not that we know
I'll
of
send
yet.
you the link in a little bit.
It's a super private dark web group, I bet.
You guys really aren't helping at all here.
Oh, you don't like it when it turns the other way.
No, I don't like it when it turns to me at all, to be quite honest about it. Actually, what's funny is I had heard about Facebook puzzle groups. It sounds very high and mighty, but I'd never gone to check any of them myself. I like solving puzzles myself or working with friends to solve puzzles. I haven't gone out onto the web to, other than like Googling answers to Googleable puzzles to try and find answers. I had no idea that people were putting Earth Cache answers out on the web. That hits me right in the heart. That's evil.
Well, again, and it goes to, because some people say, we've heard this, and people say, well, who am I hurting? Well, you're hurting the person that created the Earth Cache, or the person that created the virtual, or the person that created the puzzle, or the adventure, the adventure lab.
Yeah.
They didn't create this experience so that people could just find the answer in some spoiler group. They created the experience so that someone would go to a place and have a location-based experience. And not just sit behind a computer screen and find this stuff in some internet group. So we feel like preserving that cache experience for the finders and for the hiders is a good thing for the game, and we're going to do our best to try to do that.
That's awesome. I am really encouraged to hear that. Obviously, I loved the blog articles and reposted them immediately on Facebook and such, because I thought they were amazing to be just really upfront about, hey guys, look, this is the way the game's intended to be played. And if you don't want to play the game, you can choose not to play the game. But if you're going to mess up other people's games, we're probably going to have a talk. So I liked that. And I really appreciate that you've been really forthright about it on the show tonight as well, Rock Chalk.
Well, and I was interested to see how these would land with the community, and for the most part, they've landed very well. I think 99% of the community plays the game the way it's supposed to be played, and the way that we all expected that it will be played. This isn't HQ saying this is how the game must be played and everybody listen. This is HQ reflecting what the community has said how the game should be played, and we've learned that through personal interactions and feedback over the years, and from talking with the reviewer community as well, and so we're just trying to reflect what is best practice in various communities around the world.
Nice. IHAM says in the chat, in other words, you're trying to head off loopholery.
That's a nice term. I like that.
Yeah,
there's a certain segment of folks that, and it's, again, I want to make clear, this is a small percentage, but there definitely are people that for whatever reason, they like looking for loopholes, and they like looking for, saying, I mean, it's just funny how many times you'll hear people say, well, you didn't, like with lab caches for the longest time, people would say, well, you didn't put in there that you had to go to the place and get the code yourself. And we just thought, God, are you serious? I mean, isn't it obvious? I mean, it's there's plenty of other games that you can play that don't require you to leave your couch. You can play it from your couch or your chair or whatever, but this is a location-based game. You're supposed to go somewhere and do something and see something. And but he's right. There is definitely some loopholery out there, not just in our game, of course, but in plenty of other places.
Yeah, Chris of the NorthWest there, before you move on, I got to say, when I heard that, there was a different type of holery that went through my mind with relation to that kind of playing of geocaching. But we can talk about that off air.
It's like playing Monopoly and landing on somebody's space with a hotel. Well, I didn't intend to land here, so I don't think I should have to pay.
Yeah.
Right.
GSM times 2 says, as a result of that blog, I no longer think if I find part of a cache, then I can claim the find. So, but you're having an influence in the community.
Yeah, and we put this in there too, but we're not going on search and destroy missions to try to find out if someone logged a cache that they only found the attachment or what have you. We're just trying to make it clear what the expectations are. For instance, a couple of times in the last month, I've gotten emails from cache owners that have said, hey, I saw you DNF'd my cache. I went out and checked it. It was missing, so feel free to go ahead and log a find on it. And I don't do that because I didn't find anything. I don't personally. I mean, I guess I appreciate the offer, but yeah, I didn't find something, and I didn't sign a log, and therefore I don't feel like I should be logging it because the log type has found it, and I didn't find it. So. Yeah.
I've done that same kind of thing with a group, and like, well, 3 of us will go get that one, and 3 of us will go get that one, and we can all log both. And I was like, I didn't actually see that one, or something. No,
right.
You log it if you want. I'm not gonna.
Right. That was definitely one of the examples that we gave in that in that first blog was about group caching, because we get a lot of complaints about that, where people will say that, hey, there was this group that came out and some of them found my cache, but some of them didn't, because they were off finding a different one, and then they all logged everything. And, at the end of the day, if that group's name is on the log, that's it. I mean, they can log the find. But again, we wanted to make it clear, here's what the expectation is. Even if you read the guidelines and you think, oh, I just have to have my name in the logbook, and I'll just have my friend 500 miles away sign my name into the logbook.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, we're not going to be able to maybe do anything about it. But please understand, that's not what the expectation is of this game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, another topic that you talk about that is somewhat confusing, in fact, it's confusing to me, are logging trackables, or, moving trackables into collections and such. There are some great tips here. Can you give us a brief 30-second takeaway?
Brief 30-second takeaway. Well, a couple of things that we tried to hit on. And again, this is, I think, for most of your listeners is probably obvious stuff, but just making sure that you can help with a mission or destination before you pick one up. I used to have a bad habit of, I would come across one and think, oh, okay, I'll pick it up, and when I get back home, I'll definitely take it to the next cache. But I would get back home and look up the mission and find, oh gosh, it was going the opposite direction of me. That's not cool. Trying not to hold a trackable longer than necessary. I don't think most people try to do that, but sometimes it happens, and it's just kind of a reminder to try to keep those moving as best that you can. Not placing trackables in caches that are prone to muggles. Again, that's a tough one, as we all know. I think the way I said it was, it's more of an art than a science. But just doing the best you can to, sometimes you'll be like, oh, I've had this thing, I need to put it in something, but it maybe isn't the best idea to just put it in the first cache that you find. And the biggie was not sharing trackable codes without the owner's permission. Unfortunately, sometimes codes get on those big lists of codes that people hand around at events sometimes, and some owners are okay with that, but oftentimes it's done without permission, and we wanted to make it clear that that is not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Was there, maybe I missed it earlier on, was there a bit about giving a little bit of time when you pick up a trackable?
Yeah, yes, you're right. That is one of the things that if you find a trackable that's just been that's just been dropped into a cache, like somebody might have been there an hour before you were, and they dropped it in there, and you find it and immediately officially retrieve it, with a online log. And if you don't give that previous person a chance to drop it into the cache, then that can, screw up the mileage and stuff like that. So just giving people an opportunity to drop it in there. And, I've had a couple of instances in the past where I might wait a few days and they still haven't done it, and I might send that person a message and say, hey, I found this trackable in this cache, and you were the last one to have it. Do you want to drop it in there so that we can keep everything good for that trackable owner, so that journey can be properly documented?
Can I just say, for that particular one in particular, as a hashtag geocache road trip GPS cacher myself, amen, brother. I am sick and tired of people grabbing trackables from me because I haven't logged it into the cache the same day that I dropped the freaking trackable into the cache. Like, just relax. It's okay. You can give it a couple of days. And I love your message of, hey, you know what? If this is still in the possession of somebody, send them a message. Maybe they're on a road trip and they haven't logged their caches yet. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
You guys, I don't know about
Oh, pet peeve. That was a pet peeve right there.
that. Simple. Don't
Many
pick them up. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave this anonymous, but somebody in the chat has said, I know someone who has one of my trackables in his possession and has never logged it. Cough, rock, chop, cough. Excuse me. But
Really?
Yeah,
So-
well,
next question.
it's the
Moving
same.
right along.
Moving on to some other things, like other things to remember, as you mentioned at the end of the article. Some really important insights about replacing caches, logging dates, webcams, and having discussions, is a polite term in the logs. Now, hopefully, we all know how to replace caches as found, and it makes the most sense to have the person who found it put it back because they're the ones that knows how it goes. And logging caches on specific dates or correct dates is important, so people don't get confused and all that. But could you explain a little bit about webcams and discussions in the logs?
Yeah, so webcams, again, that's something that we hear a lot about, that people log webcams with selfies rather than with a webcam photo. It's very clear in the guidelines that a webcam can be logged once you have taken a photo with the associated webcam.
Yeah.
The log type is webcam photo taken. It is not selfie photo taken. I totally understand myself that it's frustrating if you get to a webcam and it's broken or it's down or it's
Or pointed the wrong way.
pointed the wrong way,
You know
or it's hey, I had an experience in Idaho this last week. There was one on the BYU Idaho campus. Where is that? Is that in
Rexburg.
Yes, Rexburg.
I've been there.
And there's a webcam inside a testing center.
Ah,
And I arrived, so it's inside a building. It's in a testing in a room where people take. Well, it's not in the room where they take the test. It's in the room where it's like the waiting area.
okay.
And so I had looked up the hours. It was open from 8 to 5. And I was even wondering if it would be open 4th of July week, but I got there and my gosh, the campus was hopping with people. I even think maybe the day before the 4th of July, I was amazed. I thought for sure the campus would be empty because of the holiday, but there were a lot of people. So I felt good about that. I go into the building, I found the room, and there's a sheet on the door that has the hours that I had seen on the website, but it was missing, or there was something that wasn't on the website, was that it was closed for devotional from, I think, 12 to 3 each Monday
Wow.
and Tuesday. And I was there at like 2:10, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Well, the thing that would have been kind of the loopholery way of doing it would have been maybe I would have tried either taking a selfie of myself next to the door, or maybe I would have, tried to make myself visible somehow through the little window in the door. I don't know. I've seen both those things done, but it was like, no, I'm going to have to wait an hour and come back and do this the right way, because that's what the intended experience is for me to be inside this room and take a picture with that webcam. And so, that's what we did. So,
it took me years, and I'm not exaggerating, years to finally get a webcam photo at the High Five over I-5 in downtown
Right.
Seattle. Because every time I was there, it was the wrong way.
I was
And there's-
never pointed the right way.
Yeah, there's lots of selfies and other things. I thought, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I
we've
finally
all-
got it recently. It was great.
Totally. I mean, I think we all can sympathize with that. We've all had that experience where there was just a webcam that wasn't doing what we needed it to do. And so again, we just wanted to, because I think most experienced players know what the expectation is, but webcams are just so desired because of their rarity that you hate to admit, or you hate to just have to say, oh, it isn't working. I just have to walk away from this one. Nobody wants to walk away from a cache, especially a rare one. But the problem, sometimes is that And I had this experience as a newer player, was that I would see all these selfie pictures in logs, and I just assumed that was okay, that if it wasn't working, you just take a selfie, and we just wanted to make it clear, hey, here's the expectation, here's the log type, here's what the guidelines say. And again, we don't go on search and destroy missions, but a webcam cache owner, as part of their cache ownership responsibility is to monitor logs. And if somebody's posting a selfie, technically that's not supposed to be a log. So we just wanted to make that expectation out there for people that might not be aware of it.
I think it's good you communicated that, because speaking for myself, like you said, Roger, even until quite recently, I actually assumed that was an okay option. If a webcam was down or broken or disabled or whatever, that you could still log it that way with the selfie. And in fact, I think I've even seen some webcam cache pages where it has actually said, if this isn't working for you, just log a selfie. And I didn't realize that that's actually not technically correct until very recently. And one of my #geocache road trip crew, who happens to also be a reviewer, was very adamant about that point, while two of us on the road trip were like, oh man, we'll just do a selfie. Everybody else has been doing a selfie at this one. We'll do a selfie. We'll get a webcam here at this place. Like, there's almost no webcams around. And it's like, guys, no, don't do it. And this is why. I'm like, fine. Okay.
Now, if the webcam says by the cache owner, if it's not working, take a selfie. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would, but
that feels pretty gray area. But
yeah, exactly. Well, the cache owner says go ahead and do it, and they're the that's where the buck stops. Or the webcam.
Well, what I can tell you is, when we've had situations like that brought to our attention, we will email the cache owner and remind them of what the guidelines say, and that they need to remove that from the cache page. So again, we don't go on search and destroy, but when that's brought to our attention, that's how we handle it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, guys, and then you also asked about cache pages discussion forums. So that's, again, something that comes up every so often, where people will get into a passionate debate on the cache page using write note logs, and that's not what logs were built for. That's what the discussion forums were built for. That's what, of course, there's plenty of Facebook groups out there and Reddit and whatever where you can discuss stuff, but the logs are supposed to be for just talking about your experience at the cache. And I think one thing that we try to keep in mind is that when somebody goes to a cache, or if you're preparing to go to a cache, you're looking at the logs to help you either. I'm sure you guys have had many times where I can't find this cache. Maybe I'll find something in the logs that'll help me. Or if I'm about to go out and look for it, I might read the logs to help me prepare for the experience. But if I have to scroll through and separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, scrolling through if there's a discussion going on between people about the cache that has nothing to do with what I'm looking for, again, that's not what the purpose of those logs is. So we're just trying to remind people that if you need to have a debate or whatever about the cache, then there are better places to do it than the logs.
Yep.
And those write note logs will never become a geocaching log of the week, or hero, as we like to say.
Touche. There you go. You're not going to get your badge by writing a lot of those. All right. And as Chris in the NorthWest said, there's just so much more to talk about. Rock Chalk, we're going to invite you back for another episode to talk about the second blog that we didn't even get to tonight. We're way over time because we've had so much fun talking to you. We talked a lot about mystery. Mystery at the museum. I always want to say night at the museum. I always want to say that.
If you did it with all night caches, that's fine.
Ooh, next promotion.
You should
All
do
right.
it with all mystery caches.
All right. So Mystery at the Museum was fun. We had a lot of fun talking about that. You gave us a lot of insights, but very helpful. We segued into the first of the 2 blog articles around geocaching etiquette and had some really great conversation. The chat's been amazing. They've been on fire tonight. They're very excited about both topics. And we're going to get into the third blog, or the third topic we had for tonight, which is the second blog. Wow, that's confusing. Which is going to be about cache ownership and the etiquette around cache ownership. And we're going to get you, if you're okay with it, Rock Chalk, come back another night.
Sure.
All right, we're going to schedule it back another night. We're going to talk about cache ownership etiquette. We had lots of questions about that, and I know you had them prepped. So thank you for doing the legwork and being ready. And sorry we went so long tonight.
Oh, it's been. I enjoy talking about this stuff, and it was interesting hearing your guys' questions, and yeah, I think these are all topics that, as passionate cachers that we all are, it's kind of endless discussions for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we talk about trying to mentor the new cachers, but it doesn't really happen. I mean, the new cachers pop in through the app or, read something online, go, oh, this is fun. And, in their exuberance, don't quite understand the guidelines and the etiquette. So I think this is a good topic to bring up to, educate not only the new ones, but, even old guys like me can learn something.
Old dogs learn new tricks.
No, but an old guy can learn a new thing or two every now and again.
All right. Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, Rockshock, thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to get some contact info from you in a few moments. When Jim does his usual end of the show, where do people find you stuff? That's great. I'm looking forward to that. This has been a lot of fun, and all you guys on the chat have been amazing. You've asked some fantastic questions. You've had a lot of fun in the chat. We've seen that happening, and we just thank you guys for joining us. And of course, as always, we want to take a moment to thank the Land Sharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online, or hey, go in person. Visit their store in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. They are open 6 days a week except holidays, and they ship online orders every day. We also want to thank our faithful Denali level supporters. We're going to go through all of those, and of course, off the start, it's Land Sharks, JP's Geo Designs, Limax, and thanks for submitting the glow tonight. Or no, it wasn't a glow; it was an audio. He sent me the audio.
Yeah.
Team Squirrel and worldcaching.com. Folks, if you want to know more about supporting the show, click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
That's right. And these people have, and our
Go for it, buddy. Sorry.
and our patrons that we'd like to thank: Broncos Fan for Life,
Sprouter,
Camp Clan,
Tick Magnet,
Kev MacD,
Subway Mark,
Doramore,
Dune Buddy,
Kid, Vegas 19,
GeoNav Pros,
Wino Seattle,
Acrodoc,
Billy Robinson,
Genies,
Antaeus,
Keats 94, who went to bed,
Trexer Zero,
MC3 Cats, who is up on Vancouver Island,
oh, Kennel Barb,
M Nerve,
Wet Coaster, and Greenwords,
Segehove,
Alaerobic.
Oh, Keepers of the Cash Flow. I'm not paying attention that this actually spans multiple pages now. All right.
There you go. Yeah.
Keepers of the Cash Flow.
Who did submit the glow for tonight, right?
Yes, they did.
There you go. Highlands Guy,
The Geo Travelers,
Boomer 365,
GSM times 2, very active in the chat tonight.
Kitty Quest,
and our newest patron. Thank you very much, T. Sayer.
All right. Well, until next week, fine gentlemen. We'd like to throw out some contact information if people want to reach out and ask more questions or, send us hints and tips. No discussions on it.
No Earth Cache answer.
No, yeah, that's right.
Don't make me come find you.
Throw it out to our guests first. Rockshock, where could people reach out and get in touch with you?
I'm on Instagram at GeoRockChalk. That's as good a place as any.
Awesome. Land Monkey?
I'd say just go to at GeoRockChalk or at Mrs. Rockchalk's Instagram account, which is one of my favorites. But if you want to find me, landmonkey.ca. Also, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, it's at LandMonkeyGC. And of course, YouTube, LANMONKEY, LandMonkey on YouTube. Wits End, my friend, where do people find you?
Here on Thursday nights. Or Twitter,
easy.
Facebook, geocaching.com. Wits End on most places. Chris of the Northwest.
Well, on Twitter and Facebook, I'm CachingNW. Instagram, I'm Caching in the Northwest. Better yet, head on over to CachingNW.com/hosts. See that slashing mark there? Yeah.
Wow.
And read our bios, find all those links that we just mentioned and a few secret ones, which we don't tell anybody about. But most of all, we want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show. Call 253-693-TFTC. Leave us a comment, ask us a question, buy us a free Slurpee any time of the day or night. Of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like this show, please click the Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. Give us a thumbs up or a review. This show's produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, and Jay Kennedy. The show's licensed under a Creative Commons Attributions 3.0 license, copyright 2019 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, we ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
the after show. And we're going to keep the after show very short because we went a little longer in the show.
We did. Show.
That's right. The show, the main show, the present show.
Yes.
I don't know what you call it. We've got a couple of things. Kev MacD says taunting is not good etiquette. Of course not. And I think we talked about that a little bit through the right logs.
Told them we already had one.
Keats94 says, anybody get a free Slurpee today?
Yes.
Not me, but my
But you've stolen from your son.
and
so
I
good
stole
job.
it from him. And I am.
Oh, sorry. Before you go on, Rock Chalk, did you get your free Slurpee today?
No, I did not.
All that bike riding, you had to
I
go.
know,
buy
right?
something.
I totally could have afforded a Slurpee calorie wise, but no, I did. I was kind of like with Wits End. I'm not really a Slurpee guy. It's not really my thing. Yeah, it's just kind of I remember when I was a kid, I was really into them, but yeah, just kind of not my.
But then you
not
grew
my
up.
thing. Right, but when like Baskin Robbins does their 31st of the month, like special, I think they do like $1.99 cone or something. I don't know what it is, but that's the one I'm more attracted to.
I didn't know they did that.
I have to make a comment here because I am a follower of Rock Chalk's Instagram account. And one of the pictures, we were going to talk a little bit about your trip. Maybe what we'll do is we'll talk about your trip on the next time we bring you back on the show. And one of the pictures you posted from your trip was from one of the places you stopped. And I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of the restaurant was, but you had a picture of like the food. And then there was this soft serve cone where there was,
Oh my gosh.
and then there was this mountain of soft serve ice cream extending towards the top of the frame of the picture.
Yeah, that was the missus's ice cream cone, and it was pretty impressive. It was at Zips, which you see those over over in Spokane, and that's where we were. Actually, we were in Cheney at the time, which is kind of right by Spokane. Yeah, right. But
I have family in Post
in
Falls.
Okay,
Zips
so
in Post Falls,
very impressive mountain and she claimed it was better than the Dairy Queen ice cream cone. So yeah, it was impressive. I only had a little bit of it, but it was nicely constructed.
Go for the Scoops Ahoy USS Butterscotch next.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm ice cream wise, I'm kind of a person that likes to have something in it, like cookie dough or whatever, and
chocolate chips.
So just straight soft serve isn't normally my thing. So I left that to her, but
that's probably why she ordered it. It was safe.
That's right.
Safe from you.
But if they would have filled that thing with cookie dough, I would have been all over it.
Nice. Let's see. It's hard to follow that. We'll follow up with IHAM. He says, I was riding the Tacoma Link. That's the light rail in Tacoma the other day, and a family in the seats in the next seats, we're talking about their next activity. One of the sons goes, "Are we going to find a geocache?" Had to introduce myself. And the mom asked how we folks did caching before smartphones were a thing. She was convinced that old school cachers were hardcore.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like some previous episodes we've had.
Yeah.
But
Hey.
some of Jim's inventions.
Oh, man.
Well, and several of the caches that I found in my early days were printed out on the printer and walked, over to the park, just no device at all. But
Yeah. Zoom in on Google Maps and okay,
Mhm.
it's near this and
yeah.
that's close enough. Let's go see if we can find it.
Yep.
Seebeck Tribe asks, what was the ice cream shop? I'm heading over to Spokane on Monday.
Zips.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just an ice cream shop,
No,
right?
I think it's a burger joint, isn't it?
It's a burger.
It is, yeah. It's burgers and fries and all that stuff, and then they just happen to have soft serve ice cream. So it's not like a Baskin Robbins type of a place, but pretty good. My wife likes it a lot more than I do usually, but this last time, for whatever reason, I was kind of a little more into the place than I usually am. So yeah, there's a lot of locations. It's kind of a local chain. So.
I know of one in the Tri-Cities.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That's the place I remember it from, but I don't know if I've ever eaten there, to be honest.
I'm
favorite
a big, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying my favorite ice cream story was, I'm trying to remember, there's a little community in the Spokane area that when my daughter was in college, we would go over and I'm trying desperately to remember the name of the little community, but there's a movie theater there. It's a small suburb in the town. But anyway, there's an old milk bottle shaped restaurant there that has ice cream. And the thing that cracked us up about it is there were several different chocolate chip, chocolate, this and that. There was at least 4 different misspellings of chocolate. There was chocolate and chocolate and chulate, and it was missing letters and added letters, and it just cracked us up. So I can't remember where that was now, but it was hysterical.
So what you remember is all the misspellings. No idea the name of the business, but yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember that.
Spelled too.
Probably was. There was
awesome.
a quaint movie theater along there, and it'll somebody in the chat will find it. And,
I
anyway.
remember Mr. Freeze from Perrysburg, Ohio, and you'd get soft serve stacked this high on the cone. They were only open seasonally, so they're still there. Went there just over a year ago. Took the kids.
Now I have to go upstairs and have some ice cream. You guys are making me crave it.
From your own soft serve machine you have up there?
Well, yeah.
He probably does.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Right beside the beer taps.
Okay, the Garland district. The Garland says it's right here. Mary Lou's milk bottle.
Mary Lou's milk bottle.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It was fun. It's cash only if you're heading over to Spokane, so bring some cash.
Hey, and if you're heading over to Spokane, per our previous episodes, make sure you go do the Spocash Fun Tour.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It was.
Yeah, we actually did that last weekend, and it is a nice tour. There's some fun caches on there.
That's awesome.
Did you read the descriptions well?
No, and as a result, I have not found the bonus cache. But I'm just notorious about not. I mean, the ones I read were clever, but I couldn't be bothered to read through them all during the course of the day. I'm terrible.
I love Tired Rock Jock. He's the best rock jock of all. Let me tell you what I really think, folks. All right. Well, it's 10:30. It has been an hour and a half long show. This has got to be like a marathon record for us.
It's been fun.
Rock Chalk, it's been awesome to hang out with you. Jim, Chris, guys, it's so fun to hang out with you guys every night. I really appreciate having this time. Yeah, every week. It feels like it should be every night. But
no, it's a little too much.
Fair enough.
Nobody needs that much wit's end.
Once a week maybe isn't enough, but every day would be too much. There's a balance in there. Folks, until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest.